Hi everyone, welcome back. So today let's look at how the protocol TLS works, right? So we already saw that in internet when two computers communicate or two servers communicate, they use HTTPS as the protocol or the rules by which they establish communication. Okay, I will send you request in this way, you send me response in certain way. So there is a computer here or a server here and you have a server here, so they communicate. They need to have a certain rules so that whatever it sends it understands, and whatever it receives and sends back it understands. So for that they use a common principle or a rule or a protocol which is called as HTTPS. If you haven't looked at the HTTPS video, I would recommend watching it. It's a bit long, but it's worth it. So, because the S in the HTTPS stands for secure. Why it is secure? Because whatever a computer is sending to another, and whenever this computer sends anything, the the request or response is encrypted. Encrypted meaning this says that, hey, send me 5 rupees. So when it follows the HTTPS, this 5 rupees will look something like this: EFZ dot dot dot, for example. So if a hacker in between tries to intercept this request, so all they see is EFZ dot dot dot. So they won't know the username or password, how many rupees you are sending from one person to another. For example, this can be an Axis Bank or a Chase Bank computer, and this is your personal computer, and you want to send 5 rupees to someone, and the request goes to Axis Bank. So if you use HTTPS, whatever you are sending, that information is completely scrambled and it is unscrambled at the Axis Bank. So we saw in that video that to do the encryption and decryption, so the current protocol which is followed in internet is called TLS, which stands for transport layer security. So this was introduced long back and the version keeps changing, so hackers get better, and to deal with that, security professionals get better. So the current version now which is used is 1.3. This is the updated one. So what happens in every version is that, okay, TLS is a set of steps how a PC or a particular computer in internet starts its communication with another computer. So let's see what are all the steps that involves. Okay, your computer has decided that it needs to talk to Axis Bank's or Chase Bank's computer, and it has decided that it needs this communication to be secure because your username and password and financial transaction informations are flowing. So it decided that it is going to use HTTPS, and HTTPS, the latest version is 1.3. So let's see what happens when they start communicating. So let's see the steps that is involved in TLS. I will assume that currently the two computers are deciding to use the version 1.3. So what happens is, okay, now let's take this as step 1. We already saw that whichever computer is making a request, it is called a client, right? So let's take this your computer as a client, and let's say take your bank's computer or server as a server. So in the step 1, what happens is your client will start the communication, will initiate the communication. It will send what it will send. It will send a few things. So the first thing is it will ask, are you really my bank? Right? So it will ask you, are you really my bank? Please prove it. And the second one it asks is, these are all the TLS version I can support. It will say, hey, I can support TLS version 1.2, 1.3. And the third one is, in order to do TLS, which I'll cover, so there needs to be a mathematical algorithm. Why do we need that? To convert 5 rupees to EFZ at your PC, and then to convert EFZ to 5 rupees in the Axis Bank's easy server. So a mathematical function or an algorithm needs to be there, right? So that it is very strong, and any hacker who sees EFZ, they will not be able to convert this EFZ into 5 or 5 to EFZ. So that algorithm, the mathematical function needs to be very strong, right? So it will ask what cipher algorithms you support, right? So these are the three things it asks, and based on the TLS and the cipher algorithm, in version 1.3 a random key is also shared. Let me explain that later at the end. So let's see the steps in the TLS first. So in the step 2, what happens is, so you have a client here and a server here. So now the server will reply, hey, for the first one, it will give you a certificate. Yes, I am really Axis Bank or Chase Bank. What this certificate is, I have already explained in the HTTPS video. So certificate is something which is provided by trusted authorities. You can take it like a governing bodies or something. There are a few trusted certificate providers. So one of them is interest. So when Axis Bank or Chase Bank creates a website, they'll go to this and say, you believe that we are a good organization, we are going to create a website, so we want every computer in the internet to believe us. So give us a certificate which is signed by you. So signed is not literal signature, but it is a digital signature. Again, some math is involved. So they'll verify all the documents or something. I'm not sure on the exact process, and they'll give them a digital certificate. So when this initial communication happens and your client asks the Axis Bank, are you really Axis Bank? So the Axis Bank will give the signed certificate it got from the provider during the setup. So it will send the certificate. Second one, it will say, hey, I can support TLS 1.3. And the third one is, I can support Diffie-Hellman algorithm. Okay, I'll explain Diffie-Hellman algorithm very short as well, because that is what is recommended in TLS 1.3 and it is super secure. So once this happens, so based on the algorithm and the TLS version, so both the computers have a step where they exchange keys, key exchange. This is literally not a separate step. It happens in this way. It happens here and here in TLS 1.3, and both the computers will be able to generate the keys by themselves. So when starting, client will share a random key, and server will send a random key here, and then they will calculate using the algorithm on their side and using this random key. And in the key exchange, probably they already have a secret key and a secret key, both are the same, and then they agree that okay, let's use this secret and a mathematical function to do this encryption. From 5 rupees, how EFZ comes is they have a key which is a secret which is common. They have the same secret S1, and Axis Bank has the secret S1. So this is only for this session. So if you reach out to Axis Bank later in TLS 1.3, again this key exchange will happen and a new key will be generated, right? So a key exchange will happen, and now your client and server will send a sample message. For example, hello. Using this key, they'll change the hello to something like question mark dot dash hyphen. So this goes to Axis Bank, and in the Axis Bank, it will use the same secret to convert this to hello. So if it feels like hello is properly able to decrypt and client is also able to successfully encrypt, they say that okay, I believe you, you believe me, we have a secret key, so we are safe. No one can identify what is this from this, so we will be able to securely communicate. So this last step in technology is called a handshake, not a literal handshake, but a client and server are shaking hands that okay, we are good to communicate, right? So I'll quickly explain like what happens in the key with respect to TLS 1.3 and Diffie-Hellman algorithm alone, right? So before going into it, I know this is little bit more technical, but in general, what you need to understand is when two computers start to communicate, they want 5 rupees to be encrypted. So to be encrypted, a client says to the server, hey, I want it to be encrypted. I want to be safe in the internet. So first, give me the certificate which you got from Trusted so that I know your access. And then let's agree that how you will encrypt this so that I can decrypt it at the end. If you encrypt it in a certain algorithm and I don't know the algorithm, it cannot convert this EPZ to 5RS. So let me know what version of TLS you are using and what algorithm you are using so that we can set up the initial handshake and then we can encrypt it accordingly. Just to do the initial handshake, we are having the TLS, and to encrypt, we are using the algorithm. It is as simple as that. But with evolution, those small details change, but it is not that important for users, right? So the security guys are pretty good, so they take care of it and they let us know what they are doing so that we get the knowledge of it, right? So how key exchange happens is we saw in the first step. This is with respect to only TLS 1.3. In 1.2 it is a little bit different. So in the first step, apart from other questions client asks, it shares a random key. So what random key it generates is on the client side, it will create two keys or two random numbers. You can keep it as is called as a key. One is private and second is public. So it will keep the private key for itself, it won't share it with anyone, and the public key it will transfer to the server. So the server will have the public key of the client. So now inside there is a public key of client. And in the second step, this is step 1, and in the second step the same thing happens. A private key, a pub key is generated, and pub key is transferred. So now the client will have the pub key. So each of the computers have one key or the public key of the other, and also they will share that which algorithm we are going to use. So usually in TLS 1.3 we saw that it is following a method called Diffie-Hellman elliptic curve, and there is a more to the extension as well. So in general it is called Diffie-Hellman method, and the algorithm which is used is elliptic curve logarithmic problem. So it is just a mathematical thing. So you have a public key, you have a public key, that is different, but they go through a function. For example, a function of public key. So they both pass the same public key into this function, and they will be able to get the same number. So how that happens is max, I am not sure. So this public key is 7, this public key is 4, for example. But at the end of the day, when they pass it through the same function, they will get the same secret, 5479E. This secret they store it at their end. So on every other communication, so basically they use this secret and a function to convert 5 rupees to EFAC. So any hacker who is coming in, they won't know the pub key and the private, they won't know the private key. Only the public key is transferred in the internet. So private key, they keep it for themselves. So the hacker, even they try to sniff the packet, they will never have the private key. So without the private key, this secret will not be available, and without this secret, they will not be able to convert 5 rupees to this or this to this, right? So this is the algorithm, how it works. If you don't like it, you can leave it. Even I don't go much into it. The only thing that is very important about the algorithm is a private key is generated and a public key is shared, and using their own public key and the private key and the public key of the other person, a mathematical function happens and a secret is generated. So once a secret is generated, this is used to convert this to this, and this secret changes every time you connect to Axis Bank. So it is session. So even if the hacker tries very hard and found this secret for the current session, they will not be able to decrypt the past sessions. So only one session data will be identified, even if they found it via super amazing ways. But again, by logic of max, it will take million of years to guess this without knowing all the details, mainly the private key. So we are good there. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions. I know it is a little bit technical. I'll jump to a more fun topic next time. Yeah, thank you.